is still an image which is familiar to us today. And also, in many ways, that image has made this beautiful tiara, the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, familiar to us as well, because we see it reproduced so many times.
Imagine a collection so vast and so historically significant that its value defies traditional appraisal. A hoard of over 400 breathtaking artifacts, including diamond-encrusted tiaras, emerald-laden necklaces, and rings that have survived the rise and fall of empires over 4 centuries. For decades, the public lived under the assumption that these treasures of the late Queen Elizabeth II were secured within the impenetrable depths of a high-tech fortress, guarded by the most sophisticated laser grids and elite security personnel imaginable, much like a scene from a high-stakes Hollywood blockbuster. Yet, the reality behind the palace gates tells a far more domestic and, frankly, startling story. We have often wondered how the monarchy protects its billions in assets, but what if I told you that these priceless jewels were never locked away in some underground bunker? Instead, they were reportedly sitting inside ordinary wardrobes, the kind you might find in any standard bedroom. In the very same palaces where unwanted intruders have famously wandered the halls, where professional thieves have snatched royal treasures from the seats of unlocked cars, and where a daring reporter once served breakfast to a sitting United States president after successfully faking his way into a prestigious palace job. The royal family's relationship with its own security and legacy is revealed to be riddled with astonishing scandals and security disasters that Buckingham Palace has worked tirelessly to keep out of the headlines. Today, we are pulling back the velvet curtain on the wardrobes that hold a queen's fortune and the breathtaking lapses in protection that have put the crown's heritage at risk. While one might imagine Queen Elizabeth's legendary jewelry collection, a stunning array comprising hundreds of pieces including the most famous tiaras and brooches in the world, to be housed in a facility akin to Fort Knox, royal editor Emily Andrews has shattered that illusion. As a co-host of the popular series Catching Up with the Royals, Andrews revealed the shocking truth that the late queen actually preferred a much more accessible arrangement for her most frequently worn items. Rather than a subterranean vault protected by the latest technology, these multi-million-dollar tiaras were kept in large, conventional wardrobes at Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace. Andrews admitted her own shock at this discovery, having always assumed the jewels were tucked away in a deep, highly secure underground location. In reality, the system was surprisingly organized, but deceptively simple, with each priceless piece arranged on its own individually labeled shelf within these wardrobes. This setup allowed female members of the royal family to easily borrow items for various state occasions and gala events. Perhaps even more surprising is the fact that this arrangement has remained largely unchanged under the new reign of King Charles III, who apparently sees no reason to dismantle the system established by his mother. While a more formal vault does exist approximately 40 feet beneath Buckingham Palace, a 150-foot-long converted air raid shelter, described in the book Finding Freedom as looking more like a brightly lit showroom than a cold bank vault, it is those everyday wardrobes that highlight the stunningly casual way the monarchy interacts with some of the world's most valuable objects. This sense of casualness regarding royal security took a truly dark and embarrassing turn in 2022 during a motorway jewel heist that the palace tried desperately to bury. At a time when the world should have been hearing about the height of royal security, a catastrophic blunder occurred that remained hidden until royal journalist Robert Jobson detailed the incident in his book, Windsor Legacy. During the preparations for the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, as the then Prince Charles and Duchess of Cornwall were en route to the airport for a high-profile tour of Canada, an unthinkable theft took place at the Beaconsfield services on the M40 motorway in Buckinghamshire. 3 royal aides made the inexplicable decision to leave a bag, clearly labeled with the Duchess of Cornwall's royal title, unattended inside an unlocked vehicle, while they went to grab coffee and smoke cigarettes. This invitation for disaster was quickly accepted by a local gang of thieves who seized the bag, which contained Queen Camilla's personal jewelry. The sheer magnitude of this failure cannot be overstated. The personal treasures of the future queen consort were essentially handed to common criminals at a public rest stop. While MI5 was immediately deployed and managed to recover the items within hours by tracking CCTV footage and apprehending the suspects, the most disturbing part of the story is the total lack of public accountability. No charges were ever filed, and no public record was created, as senior palace officials chose to suppress the event to avoid a PR nightmare during the Queen's Jubilee. It was a failure of protocol that might have stayed secret forever if not for Jobson's investigative work. If the idea of a motorway heist seems like a lapse in judgment, The historical precedent for palace security failures is even more chilling, particularly the case of Michael Fagan. On the morning of July 9, 1982, the world was rocked by the news that a barefoot, unemployed painter had managed to wander into Queen Elizabeth's private bedroom while she was fast asleep. What many people don't realize is that this wasn't even Fagan's first successful break-in. Just a month earlier, he had scaled a drainpipe and entered the palace through a third-floor window, where he spent 30 minutes wandering the halls, sampling cheese and crackers, and even sitting on a royal throne. Despite triggering 3 separate alarms, the security staff simply turned them off, assuming the system was malfunctioning. Fagan eventually left after finishing half a bottle of wine, only to return for his second, more famous intrusion. After scaling a 14-foot wall topped with revolving spikes and barbed wire, he once again bypassed sensors that police dismissed as faulty. He eventually made his way into the Queen's bedroom, disturbing a curtain and waking the monarch. In a terrifying display of systemic failure, the Queen's 2 calls to the palace switchboard for help went unanswered, and the bedside alarm button she used to summon assistance was later found to be improperly wired. She was left entirely alone with an intruder until a footman returning from walking the corgis finally intervened. Fagan later noted with eerie calm that he was surprised by how vulnerable the palace was, a statement that led to a massive overhaul of royal security but left an indelible stain on the reputation of the palace guards. Beyond the physical security of the jewels, the royal family has faced intense scrutiny regarding the symbolic legacy of their most famous pieces, especially when those pieces are redesigned in ways the public finds controversial. A prime example involves a stunning necklace adorned with emeralds and diamonds featuring 3 ostrich feathers, the heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales. Originally owned by Queen Alexandra in 1863 and later gifted to Princess Diana by the Queen Mother upon her marriage to Prince Charles in 1981, the piece became synonymous with Diana's elegance. She wore it prominently during gala events in Vienna and state visits to Canada, cementing its place in the hearts of her admirers. However, after Diana's passing, the piece returned to the royal collection and was eventually seen again in 2019, but this time it had been refashioned into a brooch and was being worn by Queen Camilla. The public reaction was swift and largely negative, with many fans of the late Princess of Wales feeling that the redesign was a slight to Diana's memory. While jewelry experts pointed out that the piece legally belonged to the royal collection and that its monetary value of roughly $137,000 remained stable despite the alteration, the emotional value was where the real conflict lay. For many, seeing the jewelry of the people's princess, worn by the woman she famously blamed for the breakdown of her marriage, was a step too far. Though Kate Middleton has since worn the brooch to a more positive reception, the controversy remains a testament to the fact that royal jewels are far more than just expensive trinkets. They are symbols of a complicated and often painful history. The history of people trying to get their hands on these symbols of power is long and colorful, with the most audacious attempt occurring in 1671. Colonel Thomas Blood, a man whose life story reads like a sensationalist thriller, remains the only person to ever come close to stealing the crown jewels from the Tower of London. Disguising himself as a clergyman and enlisting a woman to play his wife, Blood spent weeks befriending the 77-year-old keeper of the jewel house, Talbot Edwards. After gaining the old man's trust, Blood and his accomplices launched a brutal attack, binding and stabbing Edwards before attempting to make off with the treasures. In a moment of high-stakes absurdity, Blood used a mallet to flatten the imperial state crown so he could hide it under his cloak, while his partners shoved the royal orb down their trousers and tried to saw the scepter in half. Their escape was only thwarted when Edwards's son returned home unexpectedly and raised the alarm. In a twist that sounds like pure fiction, King Charles II was so amused and impressed by Blood's sheer audacity that he chose to pardon the criminal, restoring his Irish estates and granting him a pension. Blood went from being a violent thief to a celebrity of the royal court, highlighting a bizarre chapter where the monarchy prioritized the entertainment value of a bold crime over the strict enforcement of the law. The modern era, however, proved that even without mallets and cloaks, the palace remained shockingly easy to infiltrate. In 2003, a graduate trainee from the Daily Mirror named Ryan Perry exposed the most significant royal security scandal of the new millennium. By simply responding to a job posting on the Buckingham Palace website and providing a mix of real and fake references, Perry was hired as a royal footman without a single thorough background check. For 2 months, he had unfettered access to the most private areas of the palace, including the floors where U.S. President George W. Bush was staying during a high-stakes state visit. Despite the millions of pounds spent on security for the American president, Perry was allowed to serve breakfast, handle food, and placed chocolates in the presidential suite entirely unsupervised. He took secret photographs of the Queen's breakfast table, revealing the surprisingly humble sight of Tupperware containers and cereal boxes, and even photographed the private rooms of Prince Andrew. Perry later remarked that if he had been a terrorist, he could have easily assassinated either the Queen or the President. The fallout was massive, leading to an annual budget increase of £150,000 for staff vetting and the creation of an entirely new department dedicated to screening personnel. Yet even these measures didn't stop subsequent reporters from trying similar tactics in the years that followed. Perhaps the most dramatic and terrifying example of the royal family's vulnerability occurred on the night of March 20, 1974, when an attempt was made to kidnap Princess Anne. As she and her husband, Mark Phillips, were returning to Buckingham Palace, a gunman named Ian Ball forced their Rolls-Royce to stop on the Mall. In the chaos that followed, Ball shot several people, including Anne's protection officer and a journalist, before demanding that the princess accompany him so he could collect a £2 million ransom for the National Health Service. Anne's reaction has since become the stuff of legend. She remained scrupulously polite but utterly defiant, famously telling the kidnapper that his plan was not bloody likely, though she later described her response as simply not wanting to go with him. The situation was finally diffused by a passing former boxer named Ron Russell, who punched the gunman and helped the princess to safety. While Ball was eventually sent to a high-security psychiatric hospital, the incident fundamentally changed the way royal protection was handled, leading to better weaponry, more rigorous training, and a permanent increase in the number of armed officers guarding the family. It served as a stark reminder that the monarchy's legacy, its people, and its treasures are only as secure as the systems we put in place to protect them. Each of these stories, from the wardrobes of Windsor to the shootouts on the Mall, paints a picture of a royal family caught between the tradition of accessibility and the harsh reality of a world that often seeks to exploit their vulnerabilities. The secrets behind the crown are not always hidden in vaults. Sometimes they are hidden in plain sight, waiting for the next daring individual to challenge the boundaries of palace security. The enduring fascination with these security breaches and the casual storage of priceless items speaks to a larger truth about the British monarchy. It is an institution built on a delicate balance of public theater and private reality. While the public sees the glittering pageantry of state dinners and the stoic presence of the King's Guard, the behind-the-scenes reality is often one of human error, outdated protocols, and a surprising reliance on tradition over technology. The fact that tiaras worth more than most people's homes are kept in bedroom furniture is not just a quirky detail. It is a symbol of a family that, for better or worse, views its extraordinary heritage as part of its daily life. As the world continues to watch every move the royals make, the pressure to modernize and secure that heritage has never been higher. The transition from the late Queen Elizabeth's reign to that of King Charles III has brought these issues back into the spotlight, as the new king must navigate the same security minefields that his mother faced for 70 years. Whether it is the theft of a handbag at a motorway stop or the infiltration of the palace by a determined journalist, these events serve as constant reminders that even the most powerful family in the world is not immune to the risks of the modern age. The royal family's relationship with its own history is a drama that continues to unfold, filled with breathtaking moments of bravery and equally breathtaking moments of negligence. As we look back at these scandals and triumphs, we are reminded that the true story of the crown is often found in the places they least expected us to look. If these revelations have changed the way you view the glamour of the monarchy, it is because the reality is often far more complex and far more fragile than the public image suggests. From the ancient heists of the 17th century to the digital age infiltrations of today, the struggle to protect the royal legacy is an ongoing battle that defines the very essence of the British throne. The next time you see a royal wearing a historic tiara or standing on a palace balcony, remember that behind that image lies a world of secret wardrobes, silent alarms, and a history of daring individuals who proved that even the most fortified palaces have their weaknesses. The crown remains a symbol of stability, but as history has shown, that stability is something that must be fought for and defended every single day against those who would seek to claim a piece of the royal fortune for themselves.